Welcome to the chapter 9 of the discussion, which deals with job design, work and motivation. In this chapter we are going to learn like how a job, when it is designed properly, may lead to motivation, and so within the nature of the job and the way it is designed, how it will lead to motivation, the relationship of job with the work and other motivational characteristics. The whole objectives are to discuss first job compared to work, job performance outcomes. We will also deal with job analysis and then job designs, which are the results of job analysis, the way people perceive their jobs, a conceptual model of job design, designing job range, which is job rotation and job enlargement, and designing job depth, which is job enrichment, and we will also focus into total quality management and job design. The whole discussion will be spread through 2 lectures. First, we will try to understand job as compared to work. We will find like job, which is a set of specified work and task activities that engage an individual in an organization, and work is a physical or mental activity that has a productive results in the organization. And the most important thing over here is the work, the total work consists of small tasks, and those tasks again define a job, but work is more of a physical and mental activity that is there, and the meaning of work varies from people to people. This is very important. Different people expect different things from the job and the work, and the work itself, they give different meanings to the work and their expectations vary also. As a result, the motivational factors they get from that particular work is also varying. If the point of discussion about the meaning of work about here is why it is important, if we know like how people give meaning to their work, what are the different meanings people give to their work, then based on that we can go for designing of the jobs per se. So, here we will have a look into the meanings of the work which are most common. We will find that there are actually 6 patterns of work. The pattern A, it deals with the value, pattern A, it deals with the value which comes from performance and for which people is accountable. So, here if we find the importance given, so the value of the work comes from performance, and you find there is a personal accountability for the work. There is a personal accountability for the work. As a result, you find it is self-directed. It is self-directed and it is devoid of any negative effect, which maybe you can tell it is more intrinsically motivated. These type of the people who are having these type of patterning in viewing their work, giving meaning to their work, has a more of intrinsic motivation. Next we find which is pattern B, which is that it provides a person with positive personal affect. It provides a person with positive personal affect and identity. Work contributes to society and is not unpleasant. So, again where you find over here, this is governed more by the esteem needs that is fulfilled by the work, you find the person gets a positive affect, and this word identity over here is very important. So, the work that you do, you get a pleasant feeling about it because your society gives an identity to you based on the work that you do, and because the work you believe you do, it contributes to society, and there, because it gives you an identity and it is related with positive personal effect, it is not unpleasant in nature. So, in Maslow's hierarchy, this is more concerned with the esteem needs, and maybe if you move higher up, this consists of, when you are getting an intrinsic motivation, more related to the actualization needs. When you talk of pattern C, the activity from which profit accrues to others by its performance. So, you find it is more oriented towards the profit perspective, which activity from which the profit accrues to others by its performance, and it may be done in various settings other than workplace. So, you will find like here you are getting a broader meaning of work, like it is not work which is done only at the workplace, but it is where you get to do it beyond your workplace also, and it puts like the work is physically strenuous and somewhat compulsive in nature. So, it brings in the physical factor over here, and it tells like it is physically strenuous and somewhat compulsive that you have to do. So, somewhere this talks of like a commitment which is more of normative in nature or continuous in nature. You are doing this work because you have to do it, and it is somewhat compulsive in nature. There is another pattern which is called pattern D. So, here again work is considered primarily as a physical activity that a person must do, again you see the difference, it is directed by others and generally performed in a working place. So, here again you find these people believe, the pattern D people believe that work is something which is not like you love to do or you are self directed, you are choosing the outcome of it, but it is directed, the control, locus of control lies with others, you are directed by others to do, and it is generally performed in a workplace. And here you find it is written work is devoid of any positive effect, work is devoid of positive effect and unpleasantly connected to performance. So, this is in sharp contrast with pattern A, where you find it is pleasantly connected with performance, and here you find it is unpleasantly connected with performance because it has been directed by others and you are not having a self direction towards it, then and it is devoid of any positive effect, that is why it is becoming unpleasant and it is connected to unpleasantly connected to performance. So, again pattern E tells mentally and physically strenuous activity, takes job to be mentally and physical strenuous activity, generally unpleasant and devoid of positive effect. And there is pattern F, which tells activity constrained to specific time periods. Activity constraint, this is again you bring in a time factor over here, which is activity constrained to specific time periods that does not bring positive effect through its performance. So, what we find over here, according to the different meanings people have about the job situation, then what will happen is the way of motivating these people accordingly will vary, because different people perceive job in different ways and they expect different things from the job. and because they say it in different ways, the factors that will motivate these people so that they keep on working or perform well in the job will vary according to the perception, difference in perception of work. So, for the pattern A people, maybe a job design which is more intrinsic in nature will be more motivating and looking more towards the quality of the work itself, the job enlargement and all these things. But for the others, maybe pattern F and pattern D and pattern E, whatever you are getting, when you are talking of it's a mental and physical strain, which is pattern E is talking about, maybe you focus into more the hygienic factors and quality of life, work life issues is going to give you a better performance on the part of the employees. Next we focus into the what is the job performance outcomes, and we have different outcomes which we call job performance outcomes, and first is the objective outcomes. Objective outcomes are those outcomes which are more of like quantifiable in nature, either directly quantifiable or for which you can develop your scales for measuring it or ways of measuring it. You can just try to get some numbers for it. These again examples of this is of course the quantity and quality of output, absenteeism, then your tardiness and turnover. These are objective measures of your job performance outcome, like the way you perform in your job and the outcomes that you get for it. So, these are some of the objective outcomes. We also have the personal and behavioral outcomes, which is the job holder's reaction to the job itself. So, something you have in objectives, you are getting some outputs which you can observe, which you can quantify, and in terms of personal outcomes, you are getting the job holder's reaction to the job itself, which may affect the way the job is performed by the employee. Now, job performance outcome from this aspect may be like your psychological and health related problems in some cases, which may result as a result, which may develop as a result of job performance. It could be stress related issues also, which may develop as a result of the job performance because of the physical and mental impairments that happens, and you can, if you can relate it to, this is more related with the way that you view your work. If you really see that your work is very physically strenuous and it is really not leading to some of your gain, it is for the gain of others, or it is a physical and both mentally strenuous for you. So, these people with this view of work itself are more prone to this stress related and psychological and health related problems related to the job performance outcomes. Next is like intrinsic and extrinsic outcomes. So, intrinsic outcome is an object or event that follows from a worker's own efforts, and it does not require any involvement of other person, and you can relate it. It is more concerned with pattern A type of behavior, where you find like the work is more, or it's more self directed, and you have a positive effect and you are getting a meaning from the work itself. Extrinsic outcomes are objects or events which are related to the, or rather which follows from the worker's own efforts, and other factors like the environment and the working conditions are people present around, and these are called extrinsic rewards. Like when you are talking of pattern B, you are telling you what the work contributes to the society, and as a result what you get is identity with your job, like the special identity which an esteem that the society provides you on the basis of the job that you are doing and the importance of that particular job to the society. And these are your extrinsic rewards, and when in pattern DEF you are relating work to the working conditions, then a special improvement in the working condition itself will, for those people, they will see it as situations of extrinsic rewards. So, extrinsic rewards sometimes reinforce intrinsic rewards in a positive direction when the employee can attribute this extrinsic reward for his or her own efforts. So, this may be helpful in certain situations, but it may not be helpful in certain situations, because as already previously discussed while we were discussing the motivation, like sometimes if a job is originally intrinsically rewarding and you are doing something because of intrinsic motivation, sometimes presence of extrinsic motivation and rewards hamper performance, because you no longer remain intrinsically motivated for that job, and you feel like it's under compulsion because of that extrinsic reward you are getting. You have to like do a particular job. So, we have to be very careful while we are trying to link extrinsic rewards with and trying to link it with the intrinsic reward, because it may lead to a detrimental effect. Coming to the outcomes in the form of job satisfaction. So, it really depends on the levels of intrinsic and extrinsic outcomes and how the job holder views those outcomes, like what is the importance of intrinsic rewards and extrinsic rewards to the particular person who is in that particular job position. So, one such of course individual difference lies in the involvement that you are having for the job and commitment to the organization. So, more you are involved to the job and the more effectively committed you are to the organization, then you may prefer like more of intrinsic motivation rather than being very extrinsically guided. So, it will depend from, again, the individual differences play a major role in how people view their jobs and what do they expect from that particular job as a reward or a feedback. So, because people differ in the extent that the work is very central life interest for them. So, whether like my existence, my whole identity is dependent on the work that I am doing, or it is just a part of myself and I have other roles to play and can identify myself with those roles. So, this is one of the important phenomena which is called work centrality in a person's life. Then how much do they actively participate in a particular work? Then whether they perceive the work is very much central to their self-esteem or not. Do they define their self-esteem wholly by the work they do, or there are other factors that define their self-esteem? How much they perceive work as a definition of their self-concept. I define myself by the work that I do. So if you find like all these things are to a very high degree, like the work is a central to life interest, and work acts as central to self-esteem, and it is very consistent with the self-concept, then what happens? This is more of a total identity. You get your identity from the work itself, and any threatening experience may lead to stress for these people, because they will have a like they will fail to define themselves as a person beyond their beyond like what is the identity they've got from the work. So it's good to certain extent, but if present in a intensity is much more, then it may be detrimental for the person per se, as related to like the stress factor and a feeling of burnout and a hollow feeling is concerned, because once your task is completed, once you have really not something important to do in your hand, then what you feel like as if your whole world is lost, your whole identity is lost, and you have a very hollow feeling. And because that work is very central to your own identity in your life, it is very central to you, and it means your self-esteem. In many cases, you may not want to share the techniques of work and the knowledge gathered as a part of your experiences with the newcomers in the work. Then you feel like as if you are parting with a part of yourself, and your self-esteem gets reduced. So these could be the negative effects as far as the work centrality is concerned in a person's life. So you have to keep a optimum balance between these factors, like how much central work should be in a person's life, and how much it should be like how much other roles that the person has in the family and society should be blended with this also the work role, so that he can live a balanced life and perform well in the organization. So another important factor is of course the equity of the outcome in terms of what is now fair reward. Now this equity of outcome, which is in terms of fair reward, it may again vary from person to person based on like with whom we are comparing ourselves. This discussion we have already had in a previous class, like who is this other with whom I am comparing my input and output? Is this other who is there very inside my organization, or is this other belonging to outside my organization, to the industry or other comparable industry? So based on that, maybe your reward management will depend based on like with whom the person is comparing the input output ratio, and try to find out whether he has been fairly treated or not. And this fair treatment again is a part of like the concept of organizational justice, where we try to see whether there is in the fairness in the process of distributing rewards, which we call like procedural justice, and whether there is the amount distributed is also fair in nature, which we call like it is distributive justice. Another new way of looking into things like whether there is any personal personality wise contribution in the way the equity is perceived? Is it like for the same input and output everybody is having the same type of sense of equity or inequity, or it depends from person to person, it varies from person to person? And researchers have proved like there is a concept of equity sensitivity. So, where people differ in their equity sensitivity, and there could be like groups of people, like some people who are more benevolent in nature, like even if they are getting less than others, then they really it does not matter for them and they are happy with that. So, these people are called benevolent in nature. Some people rather are more equity sensitives, and they will try to find out whether make a clear comparison between what others are getting and what they are getting, and the way that has been given with respect to the performance, and they will try to monitor their performance by either putting it up or down if the situation is that of an over reward or that of an under reward, and they will try to be in balance with others, and these people are called equity sensitive people. And the others could be on the other extreme could be people who will try to get more rather for what they are actually entitled to, and these people are called entitlers. Like they feel like they are entitled to certain rewards, and they will try to get those rewards from the organization. So, three different ways of looking. Even if they are getting more, they will feel like they are entitled for something more, and the organization is giving them less as compared to others, which is like direct opposite to those of the benevolence. And in between you find like the group which is called equity sensitivity group. So, the people vary in the way that they perceive how and where the equity lies, equity in terms of distribution and process of giving rewards lie, and they will show their behavioral pattern in that particular way. Leading to the discussion like why we are discussing all these things of what is work, what is the different ways of viewing work, what is like the job performance outcomes, because like we will try to design our jobs based on keeping these things in mind. And what is job design? Is the process of combining tasks and responsibilities. It is a process of combining tasks and responsibilities to form complete jobs and the relationship of the jobs in the organization. So, how the different jobs are related to each other, so that you can define a work role. So, these are the issues which are handled in job design. So, job design is the process by which managers decide individual job task and authority. So, you can see like it tells about what responses is required from the employees in the terms of what is to be done. Next is how it is to be done, what is the techniques to be taken, what are the equipments to be required, and what are the procedures, what are the tools required for doing that particular job. Means what is to be done is the response, how it is to be done. Second and third is like why it is to be done, what is the purpose of doing that particular job. So, it results in like job description, like it shows the nature of the job in task performance, in the task related behaviors, like why something requires to be done. And the techniques, it tries to identify the most important needs of the employees and the organization. So, what are the most important needs, why a job needs to be done, and it tries to remove the obstacles in the workplace that frustrate those needs. Thirdly, so what will happen, like if you do it in that way, you are trying to map the individual's needs with the organizational needs, and you are trying to make people more motivated because their needs are matching with the organizational needs, and the job designed is in such way that the individual needs are also getting fulfilled through the job design. So, managers hope that if you are designing jobs in a proper way, it will lead to fulfill important individual needs, and because individual needs are getting fulfilled through a proper job design, it will contribute to individual, group and organizational effectiveness. Next, we move on to the concept of job analysis, where what happens, job analysis, why it is done. So, as a precursor of job design, we have to do a job analysis to understand the objective description of the job itself. So, and it gathers information about the three most important aspects of the job. First is of course like job content, means what it is that a person has to do, what are the required activities that the person has to do in order to do the job properly. So, and it consists of detailed description, and it like the detailing may vary from a very general description about the job to a very specific description about the job. And next is functional job analysis, where it is like the job itself is defined in terms of 4 factors. The way that the job is defined, it's done where the job is defined in terms of 4 factors, like what is that the worker does in relation to the data, people and jobs, what methods and techniques that the worker is using, what are the machines, tools and equipments needed, and what is it, what material, products and or services or subject matter that the worker is producing. So, all 4 will define the functional aspects of the job. Second, that we have to define as a part of job analysis is your job requirements. So, it is like the minimum qualification necessary to perform the job in a very adequate manner. And third is of course job context, where the physical demands and working conditions of the job, then your degree of accountability and responsibility, and further other conditions or environmental variables are taken care of while defining a particular job. From the job analysis, you see 3 elements of job design like task analysis, worker analysis and environmental analysis are developed. Task analysis, it tells about what task will be done, how each task will be done and how the tasks fit together to form a job. Worker analysis determines the capabilities the worker must possess and the responsibilities the worker will have, And environmental analysis is used to analyze physical environment including location, lighting, temperature, noise and ventilation etc., which is required for a particular job. Now, if we can we will move to the discussion over here about competency mapping. It is very timely to discuss, like when we are discussing job analysis, to describe the concept of competency mapping, because it tells you about like what to look for while we are going for task analysis and your worker analysis and environmental analysis. Now, competency is not just the skill per se or the ability per se that is required to perform a job. Rather, it is how you perform the job, more emphasis on the behavioral aspect, and it is about the knowledge that you have the job, your attitude towards a particular job, and your personality pattern that is more required for a job, the communication and the leadership styles, all defines the what is required for what is the required competency to perform a role rather in a better way. And that while we are going for the process of competency mapping, then we are utilizing the concept of job analysis. And here what we do is we do a job analysis through a position information questionnaire or position analysis questionnaire, or through multi-purpose occupational system analysis or occupational analysis inventory, or we go for a functional job analysis where we try to find out in depth about the behavioral aspects of the job that is relevant for performing a particular job in a much better way, for performing a role in a much better way. And we divide that whole role into small jobs, and then each of the job we prepare a detailed competency required for a particular job, and like we try to spell out the competencies based on these factors of whether communication, knowledge and personality pattern, attitude etc. requires for a particular job, and we prepare a detailed competency list based on, like we have a, suppose we have a competency required for a particular position, like if it is teamwork, suppose it's a competency which is required, then we have to break up teamwork into small dimensions of further list of competencies which will define a teamwork. Then we have to get a definition of, first a broad definition of what teamwork means. Then according to that definition we have to break it up into smaller competencies and then define those competencies again. And as a result what we get is a list of well defined competencies. Then we have to define the range of those competencies, the degree and depth to what it is required based on the proficiency level. Like if there are 5 hierarchies in the organization or functional levels, and what is the, or 5 types of jobs rather, however you define it, then what is the degree of a particular competency required for a particular position, and we have to map the details of it, and we have to map each of these details about the degree of the competency required for a particular position, and we have to go on mapping it according to the different proficiency, and these are called proficiency levels of the mark of the competencies. Suppose if your knowledge about accounts is one of the competency required for a particular position, maybe for the lowest proficiency level, it is on the competency required will be only for reading the information that is there in the account supplied. But for the higher competencies, as we progress in the level of proficiency, it could be for the higher proficiency level, it is not only reading but interpreting, and then maybe it is finding out the faults along with interpretation, and in the last level, highest level, it could be formulating some rules, regulations and standards also. So, according to the more you move higher up in the proficiency level, the degree of the competency required is also becoming more and more, and the complexity of that competency, the behaviors get more added on to what will define the required competency at a particular proficiency level. And accordingly, what we can prepare is competency based job description for a particular proficiency level. And then these things will then help again for it is very important for designing competency based job analysis and job description while we are talking of job designing, because it is related to the concepts of job range and job depth. So, what is a job range is the number of tasks a job holder performs, and a job depth is the amount of discretion a job holder has in a particular job in deciding on the job activities and outcomes. This will generally determine the proficiency levels in the job, as we are discussing, like what is the level of job depth that you are having, and what is your discretionary power in determining the in parts of deciding regarding the job activities and its related outcomes. And also it's about the job relationships, means the how each of the jobs are related to each other, and how do you like form the nature of like interpersonal relationships individually and within work groups. Now, if the jobs are defined according to these competency levels, then it's a modern way of looking into things, so which will help us in our designing of the jobs in the job range aspect and the job enlargement and enrichment aspects, because we know what is the range of competencies or the depth of competencies which is required for a particular proficiency level, and which is required to move a person up in the next proficiency level. And we can decide on like what all the trainings aspect required and how a person can be developed to gain all the competencies which is going to prepare him for the next higher level. So, we will see like the, and also because here we see like the individual differences and like different social settings also affect the factors which is there, how the people perceive a job. So, all these the competencies present, how you define a job and how the individual people look about the job, how society is looking at the job, all these factors will definitely have an influence on the job range and the job depth part, like while we are trying of designing those aspects. And two ways of defining job range is of course like your job enlargement and job rotation, and another is cross training. Like in job enlargement, what you do, it increases the number of tasks that a job holder performs. So because it requires more of training, it boosts up your job satisfaction and reduces absenteeism and turnover. And in the job rotation, it is part of job enlargement, where what you do, instead of enlarging or going on adding number of tasks to a particular job, what we do is we rotate a particular employee through very specifically defined tasks throughout the organization. So from one job to another, so that so he gets a feeling of, gets an exposure towards the perceived variety in the different job contents. And but we do not change a person's basic job characteristics, but we make him move through various jobs in the organization, so that person has a feel of all the jobs which are present in the organization. Or another variety of job enlargement is that of cross training, where we try to train that person in various skills which are there specific to various jobs, the behavioral and attitudinal part. Here comes the questions of competencies also. We try to develop that person the various competencies that are required for different types of jobs which are there, so that the person becomes equipped for performing various jobs which are there in the organization. So this is called a cross training. So when we are talking of job depth, then the process is that of job enrichment. And in job enrichment, what we do, it's an application again of Herzberg's two-factor theory. So it tries to expose people to jobs which meets individuals' needs for psychological growth, especially responsibility, challenge and achievement. So it increases like the job holders needs for personal growth by either use of direct feedback, which is timely and which is direct evaluation of performance, or it can be new learning, providing opportunities to learn and grow. It could be helping the individual to schedule his or her own work, like telling to the individual about the uniqueness which is there, about some unique qualities about the job, and making him give control over resources, giving control, making him give control over resources, or making him some like personally accountable for the performance that he is having, is showing in the organization. All these things will lead for enrichment of the job. So what the difference of job enlargement and enrichment is that in enlargement, what you're trying to do is you are trying to increase horizontally the number of tasks that is been added to the particular job. But in job enrichment, what you're trying to do, you're trying to increase the rewards, recognitions, feedback and uniqueness, opportunities that the person is getting for a particular job, and you're making it to meet the need for psychological needs of the individual. But we have to be very careful about like how much to enrich a particular job, and whether can all jobs be enriched in the organization or not. So these are certain of the things like which will determine the process of your job designing. And one of the important models which takes into consideration the job enlargement and enrichment aspect together is the process of JDI, the job descriptive index by Hackman and Oldham, which like what are the factors leading to job enrichment and enlargement, and we have to develop a motivational potential score as a part of that, and it is one of the primary aspects of job design, which we are going to continue in the next lecture, like job descriptive index and how it combines enlargement and enrichment together, and we will move forward with the alternative aspects of job designing from the very, like we will start with the traditional one, and we will move to the newer, more alternative aspects of job designing, which takes in, and we will talk about quality of work life, and we will talk about total quality management and various issues of emerging issues of job design, which will tell us about the complexity of job design and how we have to take into consideration various contextual and contingent factors while designing a particular job in the organization, so that job design becomes more meaningful and people can identify with that job that is given, find it more like timely, more suitable to their purpose and to the organization's purpose, and can perform well in the organization. Thank you.